In our previous episode, we explored the colonial origins of the Himalayan border, setting the stage for the deep-seated territorial disputes that continue to haunt India and China today. Now, we turn our focus to the high-altitude plateau of Aksai Chin, a desolate expanse that became the epicenter of a geopolitical crisis and a permanent point of contention between two of Asia's greatest powers. In 1865, British surveyor W. H. Johnson proposed a boundary line placing Aksai Chin within the princely state of Jammu and Kashmir, a move that would later become a cornerstone of India's official territorial claims in the region. By 1899, the British proposed the Macartney-MacDonald Line to the Qing dynasty, attempting to define a buffer zone against Russian expansion, though China never formally accepted this specific demarcation, leaving the border's status ambiguous for decades. As the People's Liberation Army entered Tibet in 1950, Beijing recognized that the harsh, uninhabited terrain of Aksai Chin provided the only feasible land corridor to connect the rest of Xinjiang province with the newly occupied Tibet region. Between 1954 and 1957, China secretly constructed the G219 highway through this plateau, a massive logistical feat that remained completely unknown to the Indian government for years due to the region's extreme isolation and lack of patrols. This silent encroachment fundamentally altered the status quo, transforming a remote, disputed territory into a vital military artery for the Chinese state, effectively creating a fait accompli on the ground that India could not easily challenge. When India finally discovered the existence of this road in 1958, the revelation sparked a diplomatic firestorm, forcing Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru to confront the reality of Chinese presence in territory claimed by the Indian government. The resulting tension accelerated India's forward policy, an attempt to establish military outposts in disputed sectors to counter further encroachment, which Beijing viewed as an existential threat to its security and a provocation that required a response. By October 1962, diplomatic failures and military posturing culminated in a full-scale war, with the PLA launching a massive, coordinated offensive that secured total control over the entire Aksai Chin plateau within a matter of weeks. The war, which ended on November 21, 1962, resulted in significant casualties, with estimates ranging from 1,300 to 2,000 Indian deaths and 700 to 800 Chinese fatalities, permanently shifting the regional power balance in the Himalayas. Despite the 1962 ceasefire, the border remained non-demarcated, leading to decades of friction and multiple bilateral agreements in 1993, 1996, 2005, and 2013, all aimed at maintaining the fragile and often violated line of actual control. The 2020 Galwan Valley clash marked a tragic turning point, representing the first lethal engagement in 45 years and resulting in the deaths of 20 Indian soldiers and at least 4 Chinese personnel in the high-altitude sector. Today, Aksai Chin remains a cold, high-altitude desert covering roughly 37,000 square kilometers, roughly the size of Switzerland, where both nations are engaged in a relentless race to build infrastructure to sustain their respective military claims. The region is characterized by its extreme elevation, averaging 5,000 meters, which makes the maintenance of permanent human populations and military logistics an immense challenge for both the Indian Army and the People's Liberation Army. Strategic choke points like the Depsang Plains, the Galwan Valley, and Pangong Tso have become the primary theaters of modern friction, where patrols frequently encounter one another in the thin, freezing mountain air of the high frontier. China's strategy of salami slicing the incremental, non-lethal encroachment on disputed territory has allowed Beijing to slowly solidify its control over the plateau without triggering a full-scale conventional war, effectively changing the status quo one step at a time. India, conversely, maintains its de jure claim to the region as part of the Union Territory of Ladakh, ensuring that the dispute remains a central pillar of its national security and foreign policy agenda against its northern neighbor. The ongoing infrastructure race, involving the construction of tunnels, bridges, and advanced airfields, reflects the commitment of both nations to sustaining year-round troop deployments in this unforgiving, high-altitude environment that was once considered impassable. This dispute has significantly influenced India's geopolitical trajectory, pushing it toward closer security cooperation with the United States and the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue, or Quad, to balance against China's rising regional dominance in the Indo-Pacific theater. The history of Aksai Chin serves as a stark reminder of how cartographic ambiguity and strategic necessity can lead to decades of instability, transforming a silent, empty plateau into a flashpoint of global significance and military tension. As we look ahead, the unresolved nature of the border ensures that the Aksai Chin issue will remain a primary driver of tension in the India-China relationship for the foreseeable future, requiring constant diplomatic and military vigilance. Understanding this history is essential to grasping the complexities of modern Asian geopolitics, where the shadows of 1962 still loom large over every patrol and diplomatic negotiation occurring along the disputed line of actual control today. Each beat of this conflict, from the secret road construction to the lethal clashes in the Galwan Valley, underscores the persistent danger of miscalculation in one of the world's most militarized and volatile border zones. The legacy of these events continues to shape the strategic calculations of both New Delhi and Beijing, as they navigate the delicate balance between economic interdependence and the hard reality of territorial sovereignty in the Himalayas. We must examine the specific tactical maneuvers and the human cost of these confrontations to fully appreciate the gravity of the situation that currently unfolds along the high-altitude frontier between these two massive, competing nations. In our next episode, we will delve into the complex evolution of the line of actual control, exploring how the lack of a clear, demarcated boundary has led to the persistent cycle of standoffs we see today. We will analyze the specific military doctrines and diplomatic frameworks that have been employed over the decades to manage this volatile border, providing a deeper understanding of the challenges that lie ahead for both India and China. The history of the Aksai Chin Plateau is not merely a story of land and maps, but a narrative of national identity, security, and the enduring struggle for influence in the heart of the Himalayas. By tracing the development of the G219 highway, we see how China's logistical planning laid the groundwork for its current dominance, a reality that India has been forced to confront through rapid, reactive infrastructure development and military buildup. The silence of the plateau in the 1950s stands in stark contrast to the modern reality of constant surveillance, drone patrols, and high-tech military outposts that now define the landscape of this disputed territory in the 21st century. Every kilometer of road built and every outpost established serves as a testament to the strategic importance of this region, which serves as a vital bridge between China's western provinces and its frontier in Tibet. The human element of this conflict, often overshadowed by geopolitical analysis, involves the soldiers who endure extreme conditions to hold their ground, their sacrifices forming the backbone of their respective nations' territorial claims in the mountains. The 1962 war left a lasting scar on the Indian national consciousness, influencing its defense policy and its approach to the border for generations, leading to a profound transformation in military readiness and strategic thinking. For China, the control of Aksai Chin is viewed as a matter of internal stability, protecting the integrity of its western borders and ensuring the security of its transport corridors through the rugged and remote Kunlun Mountains. The international community watches these developments with concern, recognizing that any misstep in this region could have profound implications for global security, given the presence of two nuclear-armed neighbors with competing territorial claims. The complexity of the Aksai Chin dispute is compounded by the fact that the region is virtually uninhabited, yet its strategic value far outweighs its lack of economic or agricultural utility for either nation involved in the conflict. Looking at the maps of the 1865 Johnson Line and the 1899 McCartney-MacDonald Line, we see the roots of a disagreement that has proven impossible to resolve through diplomatic channels alone, leading to the current military stalemate. The failure to reach a mutually acceptable border agreement has meant that the status quo is maintained by the strength of military presence, a situation that is inherently unstable and prone to escalation at any given moment. As we continue this series, we will explore the nuances of the 1993, 1996, and 2005 agreements, examining why these attempts to preserve peace have struggled to contain the underlying competitive pressures that define the border. The story of Aksai Chin is far from over, and its future will continue to be written by the actions of the soldiers and policymakers who operate in the shadow of the Karakoram Range and the Kunlun Mountains. We invite you to join us in the next episode as we unravel the intricate web of treaties, agreements, and broken promises that have defined the modern history of the India-China border and the ongoing struggle for control. The resolution of this dispute remains one of the most significant challenges for 21st-century diplomacy, requiring a level of foresight and cooperation that has yet to be fully realized by either regional power in the Himalayan theater. As we conclude this second episode, we are reminded that history is not just a record of the past, but a living force that continues to shape the present and the future of international relations in Asia. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the history of Aksai Chin, and we look forward to exploring the next chapter of this complex and ongoing saga with you in the upcoming episodes of our series. The G219 highway, which cuts through the heart of the plateau, remains the single most important piece of infrastructure in the region, serving as the physical manifestation of China's administrative and military control over Aksai Chin today. Indian patrols, often operating in extreme conditions, continue to monitor the border, facing the constant challenge of navigating a landscape where the line between administered territory and disputed land is often blurred and poorly defined. The Kunlun Mountains, which form the northern boundary of Aksai Chin, provide a natural barrier that has historically been used to define the limits of administrative control, yet they remain a site of intense military focus. In the 1950s, the lack of formal border demarcation allowed for competing interpretations of colonial-era maps, setting the stage for the conflict that would eventually erupt into open warfare in the autumn of 1962. The 1962 war was not just a territorial conflict but a clash of national visions, as both India and China sought to assert their influence and secure their borders in the aftermath of the post-colonial transition. Modern satellite imagery has become an essential tool for tracking the development of military infrastructure in Aksai Chin, revealing the construction of new roads, heliports, and bunkers that change the landscape of the border on a monthly basis. The strategic importance of the Depsang plains lies in their proximity to the line of actual control, making them a critical area for both nations to maintain a presence and prevent the other from gaining a tactical advantage. Pangong Tso, a high-altitude lake that spans the border, has seen numerous standoffs between Indian and Chinese forces, with both sides utilizing boats and ground patrols to assert their claims in the disputed water and surrounding terrain. The 1993 Agreement on the Maintenance of Peace and Tranquility along the line of actual control was intended to provide a framework for managing the border, yet it has been repeatedly tested by the realities on the ground. The 1996 Agreement on Confidence-Building measures in the military field sought to prevent accidental escalation, yet the persistent lack of a clear, mutually agreed-upon border continues to undermine these efforts at every turn in the region. The 2005 Protocol on Modalities for the implementation of confidence-building measures further attempted to regulate interactions, but the underlying territorial dispute remains the primary obstacle to any lasting peace along the Himalayan frontier. The 2013 Border Defense Cooperation Agreement was designed to establish better communication between military commanders, yet the frequency of standoffs has only increased in the years following its signing by both the Indian and Chinese governments. The role of the Border Roads Organisatio in India has been critical in countering Chinese infrastructure development, as New Delhi accelerates the construction of roads and bridges to ensure its troops can reach the border in all seasons. The 14th Corps of the Indian Army, tasked with defending the Ladakh sector, faces the immense challenge of operating in one of the most difficult terrains on Earth, where climate and altitude are as much an enemy as any adversary. The Lingzi Tang Plains, located within the heart of Aksai Chin, are a testament to the vast, empty nature of the region, where the lack of infrastructure makes any military movement a logistical nightmare for both sides involved. The Karakoram Range, which borders Aksai Chin to the west, provides a formidable physical barrier that has shaped the history of trade and conflict in the region for centuries, long before the modern border dispute was even conceived. The geopolitical significance of the Aksai Chin Plateau extends far beyond its borders, as it represents a critical point of friction in the broader competition for influence between India and China across the entire Asian continent today. The lack of permanent human habitation in Aksai Chin has allowed both nations to use the region as a testing ground for their military capabilities, with each side seeking to demonstrate its resolve and commitment to its territorial claims. The ongoing dispute over Aksai Chin is a reminder that even the most remote and desolate corners of the world can become the center of intense geopolitical rivalry, especially when they occupy a position of strategic importance. As we move forward in this series, we will continue to examine the evidence, the history, and the perspectives of all parties involved, ensuring that we provide a comprehensive and balanced view of this complex and ongoing border dispute. The commitment of the Indian and Chinese governments to their respective positions ensures that the Aksai Chin issue will remain a central and unresolved part of their bilateral relationship for years, if not decades, to come in the future. The history of Aksai Chin is a narrative of resilience, strategy, and the enduring power of territorial claims, which continue to drive the actions of nations and the lives of the soldiers who stand guard on the high frontier. We hope this episode has provided you with a clear and detailed understanding of how Aksai Chin became the center of a geopolitical crisis, and we look forward to exploring the next part of this important story with you.